You are sitting in the dark, staring at the glow of a screen. You are waiting for a message from someone completely unpredictable. They might respond with warmth, or they might be cold and distant. Psychology highlights a sharp distinction between wanting and liking. You may no longer enjoy the relationship, and the interactions might leave you exhausted and anxious. Yet you feel a compulsive, near physical urge to check your phone, waiting for that next hit of attention. We usually define addiction by the substances we consume, like pills, alcohol, or nicotine. But your brain's reward center does not draw a line between an external chemical compound and the neurochemistry generated by your own intense emotions. Every emotion you feel triggers a distinct biochemical cocktail in your bloodstream. When you repeatedly experience volatile extremes, your nervous system adapts to that routine, a state often described as emotional addiction. This pattern suggests the attraction has shifted from the person to a specific internal reaction that these moments of conflict and relief seem to trigger. Deep inside your brain sits the nucleus accumbens, which regulates your reward circuitry. To this specific cluster of neurons, the dopamine hit from an illicit drug and the dopamine spike from a dramatic romantic reconciliation activates strikingly similar pathways. During the first half of a toxic cycle, an argument or a partner's sudden withdrawal floods your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. Your nervous system is pushed into a state of intense panic. Then the tension breaks. An apology or a sudden burst of affection triggers a massive surge of dopamine and oxytocin, washing over the stress hormones and creating an overwhelming physiological high. Repeating this extreme cycle forces physical adaptations. The limbic system, your primal survival engine, becomes hyperactive, while activity in your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic and rational decision-making, is actively suppressed. Staying in a highly toxic dynamic becomes a neurological compulsion. Your logic center is taken offline by a chemical flood, making rational choices impossible. This compulsion is driven by a behavioral mechanism known as intermittent reinforcement, which explains why volatile situations are so difficult to escape. Consistent, predictable affection leads to calm, relaxed behavior. An unpredictable reward, however, hijacks the dopamine pathway. When you never know exactly when the next payout of love is coming, your mind stays locked in high alert anticipation. This cycle of severe panic followed by sudden rescue creates a trauma bond. The emotional contrast is so extreme that the brain misinterprets the massive relief from distress as deep, passionate connection. What feels like an unbreakable bond is actually the body's desperate pursuit of relief from the anxiety that the relationship itself manufactured. This raises a strange question. Why would a human being subconsciously seek out painful emotional situations instead of gravitating towards stability? The answer lies in the familiarity bias. The human brain is a prediction engine designed for survival, meaning it prioritizes predictability over actual happiness. If your early environment was defined by chaos, neglect, or high stress, your developing nervous system adapted. It calibrated its baseline neurochemistry to expect a continuous flow of stress hormones. As an adult, peaceful and stable environments can trigger panic or boredom because the brain lacks the predictive model for tranquility. People sabotage peace and seek out dramatic partners because they are biologically chasing a chemical state they learned to call home. Because emotional addiction is a physical pathway built through repetition, it can be unlearned. Through neuroplasticity, your brain has the ability to reorganize itself and form new neural pathways through repeated exposure to calm and safe environments. Practices like mindfulness re-engage your prefrontal cortex, allowing you to observe an emotional craving without immediately obeying it, while self-compassion naturally releases oxytocin to counteract stress hormones. Recovery requires the patient work of retraining your nervous system so it can eventually treat peace as safety instead of a threat.